Hey, this is Justin with daytradethemarkets.com. It's Monday, August 21st. In fact, I just got back inside from the watching the solar eclipse with the kids. That was kind of neat. But anyway, now that I'm back inside, I wanted to talk about an interesting scenario, that we see a lot, but today it happened. It was kind of interesting in crude oil, and it's the idea that if you have a losing trade, it can help you find the next winning one. Or another way of saying it is if we have an expectation for the market and that expectation is not met, it's often a pretty good clue that the other side is more powerful than we might have thought, and we probably ought to prepare to get on board with the other side. And again, that goes back to the whole idea that our job as traders is not to be, setup followers or robotic. Our job as traders is to be able to make sense of the market, be able to tell the market story so that we can determine when an opportunity is worthy of X amount of risk. Okay, and whenever we can get in a situation where the risk we would have to take for a hypothesis is worthy of the opportunity that exists, we have a pretty good situation. We have an edge. And so I wanted to talk about a scenario today from Crude. And again, just to give you a little lay of the land here, I've tried to do this. This big blue area here, what we call a zone, okay? And these are known before the day starts. And the idea is these are kind of bigger picture areas of importance, okay? And so the idea behind this is that if we are, for example, coming at this from above, the high of this zone should give us some support. And once we would get inside of this, that shows that the sellers are pretty strong. We're probably, it might not be a straight line, but we're probably going to make our way down to the low of this zone, okay, in that case. And if sellers are strong enough to push through there, it's showing that they're pretty strong as well. So that's kind of the zone level. That's one piece of evidence, okay? It's not enough on its own to give you enough of an edge, but it's a helpful piece of information. And then you can see these, I've got arrows pointing here, these boxes here. These are what we develop during the day. These develop during the day. They kind of give us a short-term, playing field for what's, being able to make sense of what the market's behavior is likely to be. Okay, so putting these two, and what we see today here is we see stacking selling boxes. Okay, that tells us a pretty good trend day it has developed. Now, after the first box, we don't know that, okay? And I want to kind of focus our attention to this area right in here for just a second. So imagine that we're opening the day, okay? We're at an area where at the top of this zone, in quotes, should give us support, okay? It should make the market want to go there. Now, at the same time, we get a little bit of conflicting evidence where we get this selling box that forms right here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just to show you, a little bit thicker, okay? So this selling box forms, and it formed about right there, okay? And what happens is we test the low of the selling box right here, and we have what we call a boxed rejection, okay? The low of this box, we dip our toe in the pool basically below, which is the low of that box. Oh, it's way too cold, don't like it. We quickly take our toe out of the pool, okay? So we see this scenario here where we get a boxed rejection, okay? And it's an area near where we'd expect support. So getting on board a long trade somewhere in this area here, and again, risk is always the X factor. We know that we're wrong somewhere down in here, okay? We know we're wrong somewhere down in there, so how much do you want to risk? If you want to get on board right in here, this would be your amount of risk, okay? If you wanted to wait for a little bit of a pullback and get on board somewhere like that, somewhere in here, this is your amount of risk, okay? Now, our basic expectation is that it should make it to the high of the box and perhaps beyond. So, here would be our reward profile, here would be our reward profile, okay? But it's a pretty good area, if you think about it, where we're starting to see perhaps a rejection of some selling in here at an area where we would expect some support, the high of this zone, okay? So getting on board here is not a bad idea. It's a pretty good place where we're trying to basically pick off the low of the day and hope this thing makes it at least to the high of the box and perhaps beyond. Perhaps we catch the high of the day and this support holds and everything's great. Okay, so if you took a trade in there, you're not going to really get hurt. You're going to ride it up here and protect yourself by the time it comes back here. But when this support area doesn't hold, okay, and when this box rejection ends up itself getting rejected, in other words, the sellers come back in, think about what's going on right about here, okay? At this moment, now we are fully inside of this zone, okay? That's telling us most likely we're headed down to the low of the zone. Okay, we are also, on really good aggression down here below the low of this box. Okay, that's a bearish indication. At this point, the fact that the support area in here, where we also saw some buying come in, the fact that that didn't hold is telling us look out below. Basically, it's telling us the other side's probably coming in. So what are the expectation would be that we're going to probably take it down to here, which again we got to later in the day. So how would we do that? Well, aggressively, one could get on what we call the breakout trade, okay? To me, it's a little bit, I think we really would have been better off waiting for it to retest up in here for a really lower risk trade. Now, that didn't come, Okay, that didn't happen. It did come over here where you can see where we have another two boxes that overlap. This is what we call a box overlap trade. Okay, so you can see where the high of this box and the low of the box before it, right in there, it's what we call the overlap zone. That's a pretty good area where we would expect the sellers to step in and protect. So we know we have a very low risk on that trade, and if we're right, we're at least going to make it to the low of that box and perhaps beyond. Okay, same thing here. Again, everything is telling us to be on the short side at this moment in time. We have another, this is a bigger one, but we have another box overlap somewhere in here. So anywhere in this area is probably a pretty safe place to get short, because all of our evidence on the zone level, it's telling us once we broke through here, we're probably heading to there. And on our box evidence, we're starting to see stacking selling boxes. Until one of these areas doesn't hold, we have a trend day. We have a day where we expect selling to continue. And so getting in somewhere up in here made a lot of sense. Didn't happen. Getting in somewhere over here to get short made a lot of sense. Getting in somewhere in here made a lot of sense, and it certainly sold off. Then we get to the end of the session. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, you're going to take losing trades. You're going to take trades where the risk is worth the opportunity and it just doesn't work out. That's the nature of trading. That's the nature of anything that you're doing that's probability based. So getting long in here, and I know we have some people that did that, that's not a bad decision from a risk reward standpoint. The fact that it doesn't work is not the end of the world, because hopefully you protected yourself and it's a break even or a very small loss, because it did move in our direction a little bit. But when this fails, that's telling us, look out below. We're probably making it all the way down to here. You know, whether you just get on and hold, whether you get on and try to get in it with a little bit more precise location somewhere in here or here and try to hold for that is up to you, but that's the concept, okay? So the fact that the buying didn't hold here tells us the sellers are stronger than we might have expected, and this thing's probably headed lower. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions on that, let me know. Talk to you soon.